Hello again, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the Berlin Wall, and building on last episode, we're going to be talking about the events and the results of the Berlin Wall. Just to recap though, the causes of the Berlin Wall, very simply, Berlin was a flashpoint. It was a capitalist city within a communist country, and it was extremely prosperous. Remember, the West had done this on purpose to make it much more attractive to the communists in East Germany. They put a lot of money in. There was a lot of wealth within West Berlin. It was full of parties and clubs, and it was all very, very groovy, baby. There were loads and loads of refugees that were leaving the east to go to the west. 2.7 million between 45 and 61. That's 25,000 a month. The third reason was that Khrushchev wanted to stop this flood of refugees, and he wanted control of all of Berlin, and so he sent an ultimatum to Eisenhower. There were meetings to stop or to deal with the problem of Berlin, which they ultimately failed, remember, because of the U-2 spy plane and Gary Powers and that whole affair, and Eisenhower's refusal to apologise. And the fact that a new president came to power in 1961 in America, and Khrushchev thought that he could bully this young guy and get what he wanted over West Berlin, but Khrushchev wouldn't give up, wouldn't give in on Berlin, and so Khrushchev realised that actually what he had to do was, if he couldn't control all of Berlin, he could at least try and stop the flood of refugees. So he built the Berlin Wall. That's the causes, very straightforward. Now the events are even simpler. They built a wall. It was the August 1961. East German soldiers erected a barbed wire fence overnight to stop the free movement from the east to the west. Now, this was quickly replaced by a concrete wall, and all crossing points were closed between the east and the west, except for one. This is a very important one. It's called Checkpoint Charlie. It was the only entrance from East Germany into West Berlin, and it was heavily guarded, extremely tightly controlled. Now, that's the events. The wall was built. Now, over the next 20, 30 years, the wall was added to constantly, until it had 2 layers of walls in most places. It had mines, it had tripwires, it had sensors, it had guard posts with searchlights, dogs, patrols. It was incredible, all to stop this flood of refugees from the east to the west. There are various results of the Berlin Wall. The first one is, well, obviously the families were divided. East Berliners who worked in West Berlin couldn't get to work. Families were split up. It didn't matter if you were in the eastern sector, that's where you stayed. You couldn't cross into the west. That didn't stop people trying to cross over, and some succeeded, but the East German guards killed over 300 East Germans trying to cross to the west. At one stage, neither side was sure what they were going to do about the wall, so the American tanks drew up to Checkpoint Charlie and were very close, and the East Germans were very unsure about what was going to happen, so they brought Soviet tanks, and the tanks faced each other for a day or so, until eventually the tension decreased, and they moved back 5 metres at a time. Back, and the whole situation was diffused. War had been averted. Now, that brings us on to JFK's lovely quote about the Berlin Wall, which you really ought to remember, is it's not a very nice solution, but a wall is a hell of a lot better than a war. And that sums up the American view. The war was a fait accompli, they couldn't stop it, but they had stopped a war, which was better. Now, Khrushchev had achieved his aim. He hadn't got control of Berlin, but he had stopped the flow of refugees. And he presented the wall as a protective barrier to protect the people of East Germany from the evil influences of the capitalists. The West put a different spin on it, and they presented it as a prison wall. Communism is so bad that they even have to build a wall around their country to stop people escaping. The Berlin Wall itself became a symbol of the division of Germany and of Europe, and indeed of the Cold War itself. In 1963, JFK visited West Berlin to express his determination to not give up on West Berlin and to recognise its importance as a symbol of freedom in the world. That's his famous quote, "Ich bin ein Berliner," which was intended to demonstrate his solidarity with the people of West Berlin. Unfortunately, Berliner is Berlin slang for a donut. chapter. It actually said, I am a donut. But regardless of that, there are 5, sorry, camera's funny again, 5 results of the Berlin Wall. Firstly, Berlin was split into 2. 300 people tried to cross that barrier and died because of it. Secondly, the US complained about the wall but didn't try to take it down. It wasn't worth a war. JFK's quote, "It's not a very nice solution, but it's a hell of a lot better than a war." The third thing is that tension grew. Both sides began increasingly testing nuclear weapons and building up their nuclear arsenals. They're increasingly distrustful of each other. Fourthly, and linked to the third point, is that the West became increasingly anti-communist. It marks a major change. And fifthly, finally, the war became a symbol in the West of communist tyranny. So there are 5 key results. I suggest you pause this, I suggest you practice that, make sure you can get the 5 results down, make sure you understand that, make sure you remember Kennedy's quote, have a read of your textbook. It's mostly on page 98, 99 of that. It's very, very good. Pause this, rewind it, make some notes. Hopefully you enjoy it, and I got Groovy Baby in. Bye-bye.